Dad was born in Ealing. He had one sister called Julie, who he lost touch with later on in life. His mum was called Winifred, and we used to call her Winnie, and his dad was Fred. His parents divorced because my granddad, Fred, was said to be quite a difficult man.
His home life wasn't very happy because his dad was quite a controlling man, jealous of his mum, so there was a lot of tension in the household always. I met him at a dance on the 10th of November. What year was that? 60, I think.
It was one of the clubs around Fulham. He just asked her for a dance, and that was that.
We were married anyway 10 months later, on my birthday, on the 30th of September, 1961.
Things moved quickly in those days, so it's astonishing to think that they were together for so many years.
He was my one and only love. He was so special.
He adored my mum, and they never argued, they never had fights, there was never disagreements, and so you didn't see much emotion other than good emotions.
Mark was born on the 19th of February, 64. Dominic was born 2 years later, again in February. Paul was born 18 months later. Dad was absolutely over the moon with his 3 boys, of course. He was a great provider, a wonderful husband, responsible, caring, loved his family.
My dad came from a very humble background. There wasn't a lot of money, etc. And yet he managed to find his way into the RAF and worked on radars there, which I always thought sounded that's a real achievement. And then he studied for his qualifications at night school so that he could become an engineer. And that was self-motivated, and that was very driven.
When he was 52, he got ill.
It's a funny thing because when we look back on it in hindsight, there were some signs that we would know that he would never have said that there is something wrong. To avoid traffic, he would get up early in the morning and he would drive to work. And at some point, he started getting home and just having to lie down and have a sleep. I don't think anyone thought anything other than he's just a guy who's just getting a bit older.
Granddad had a hernia operation in 1991. After the operation, he developed a limp, and we thought it was something that had happened during the operation.
And so he'd gone back to find out had something not healed properly. And it was from that inquiry that it led to more tests.
I picked him up by cab and we came home. I said, what did they say? I said, he just looked at me and said, they think I've got motor neurone disease. The only person I could think of with motor neurone disease at that time was Professor Hawking. He asked how long he had to live, and they said 5 years, possibly 6. The first 2 or 3 years weren't so bad. He was still able to walk, still able to socialise. And then gradually, as he got worse, obviously, he ended up in a wheelchair.
For me, it didn't really hit home, I think, until the disease started to really show physical signs of difficulty.
Later on, as it got worse, we used to have carers coming in to help me to wash him, and then we had to have equipment to help him to get out of bed. So we had a hoist.
A lift was put in so that he could go upstairs. He had a couple of different wheelchairs, winches installed. It was just very difficult to watch a man who had been so athletic, so sociable, and central to everything that you had done, suddenly being physically reduced, I guess.
He couldn't do anything for himself. He felt terrible about me having to do it, but that was how it was.
See, we worried about Mum, how she was going to cope. We probably shouldn't have worried because, she's remarkable. Her strength and her family were remarkable in supporting her.
The most important person was Granddad, because he was having to deal with the fact that he was going to die. And at the end, he couldn't wait. He was just in so much pain. So he went into a hospice, Princess Alice Hospice, and we were all there with him when he died. He had quite a peaceful death in the end.
Each of us, me, Mark and Dominic, had reached some point with him where we could talk to him like a friend, and I think that he would have been like that for his grandchildren.
He would have made a fantastic granddad, a fantastic granddad. He would have been so proud of all of you. Your gran, I remember the card she sent. Eric the Brave, she said in the card. And I thought he was. Eric the Brave.